Hello. Welcome to the society. Now transform and rage out! I am Jax, and I will be your host for this video. Now, the first thing we're going to do is draw a circle for the head. Shall we? Alright, so let's start off right here. Keep circling it. Keep circling it. Making sure it doesn't look like a complete mess. Now let's start one for the body. Make it a little bit twice as bigger than the one we've already did earlier. So that way we can actually build the chest from it. Then, draw like a line, particularly meant to serve as the spinal cord. And draw another circle to serve as another, well, I'm not really sure how you could call it. Then draw like a little cylinder thing, so that way it would look like an actual limb or arm or leg. Something that would actually help to keep the balance of the bone structure. There we go. There we go. Then draw more circles on both sides of the chest area, so that way you can build shoulders. Then build another shape for the tailbone to resemble to look like a little piece nubbin. I'm not really sure how you would call it. I try to make this into like a croissant or something. Then draw little spindly arms with two circles, one serving as a connection to the upper arm, whereas the other is connected to the lower arm, where the hand is going to be, which there was a hand. Then eventually do on the other side, like that, and like that. The same process. You're building arms from these type of contraptions in some way or another. That's perfect. Now, draw a head by using the circle that we draw from just very early, and then use it as the foundation to build our head. Give it a bit of a cone shape to resemble something you would see in SpongeBob. When I mean by SpongeBob, I mean Patrick. And then eventually draw the back, or the back, I guess, and then draw shoulders, so that our character doesn't look a little disjointed. Now let's move on to the next step. Now, the next thing we're going to do is draw the face. Now, first, we draw this line right here to serve as our base, then draw this other line, particularly sideways, to serve as where the eye placements would be, and then draw one for the nose, and then eventually draw one for the mouth. You see where I'm getting here? And then draw two of these little lines on two of the sides of the face. That way you can build your eyes, like that. I'll get to that point in a minute. And then eventually draw little football-shaped eyes to actually give that somewhat feeling of the eyes being drawn to the face of the character you're composing. I sound so calm in this video for some reason. But anyway, now with the eyes finally being properly structured, now let's move on to the nose before we start adding detail to it, to flesh out certain elements. Make the nose look more triangle or square-shaped to actually give that look of the actual nose. Then move on to the mouth. Now, usually we need to draw some lips. Let's give this good boy some lips. Giving them good pucker lips, if you ask me. I don't want to get too frisky with this one. If you know what I mean. But anyway, let's give this guy some nice, good old juicy lips. Now, let's move on to add more detail. First off, we must, actually add a little bit more detail. I'm just going to work on this part over here. Something like that. And, yep, something like that as well. Yep, just to connect all the shapes together to make actually an actual body. That way, it just doesn't look a little disconnected from the other pieces from the picture. Now, let's move on to erase some other internal elements, so that way we wouldn't really particularly erase the entire face. Now, you're going to have to erase a little bit on the eyes and nose and mouth, probably because that way you can actually build the foundation from it. Don't erase them too much, or else you'll just completely mess up the picture. Then, what you're now going to do is draw over it. That way you can actually add some interesting touches to it. So that way it doesn't look like shapes in the face anymore, but now look more like an actual natural look. Then draw the eyes and the eyebrows. I wouldn't really add hair on this, because this is saying it's just for practice. And then eventually add the realistic textures to the eyes and eyebrows. You see where we're getting here with the first one. And then move on to the next part, eventually going on the other eye on the other side. Do the same process for the eye, make it a little bit more football-shaped, and eventually give it a bit more eyebrow exteriors. Something like that. Yes. Perfect. Very perfect. Okay, now that I think about it, this looks like Patrick. To be honest.
Hi, if you know me, SpongeBob. I love to blow bubbles.
Sorry, that was meant to be a joke, actually. That was meant to be a SpongeBob joke. But anyway, now let's move on to the nose, and then eventually add detail to that to make it a little bit more realistic, while also staying true to the cartoonish aspects to it. There we go. Adding detail, erasing some exterior elements, particularly getting rid of the lines, and yeah, there you go. You add with a nice little detailed nose. Hold on, just give me a second. There, just a bit, or something like that. Make a little bit of line, and there you go. The nose looks perfect-ish. Then add some cheekbones to actually give that immersion, or add like little sacs on your eyes. And then eventually, just make something that would actually just, be, just get used with the picture. Then finally, let's move on to the next part. What can I get? Oh yeah, the mouth. Alright, so let's just first move on to the cheeks first, and then we'll get to the mouth. Now, usually you have to create some muscle textures to make the character look like he can actually function as face, or something in between. There, with the cheeks now being placed in. Let's now move on to the next part, the mouth. What I mean by the mouth, I mean the lips. Then eventually, you're going to have to erase a little bit of the mouth, so that way you can get rid of the extra lines, and then add more detail to it. But first, if I would do that, do the chin first. There we go. Then eventually get rid of some of the extra lines on the mouth. But like I said, do not erase too much of the detail or else you're just going to end up with a bit of a blank mess. And eventually, still save it right there. And then eventually draw over the lines that made up the lips of the mouth. Like that. Let's give this mouth a bit more realism to it, shall we? First, make a little part from the mouth, so that way it just actually is connected to the cheek. So that way when you're making the character smile, it looks like something you would see off of Shrek. Particularly when Shrek's mouth just smiles, something like that. Usually I like to pay attention to more of the actual realistic detail of the character's face, but also still having a more of a cartoonish look to it. Now I'm going to work on the upper lips, to give that nice little prickish look to them. Make them look fabulous. Yeah, make them look fabulous. That's basically what I'm trying to say. Sorry, I kind of sound a little, sound a little weird right there, but anyway, I'm just in character right now. But anyway, let's work back on the lower lips. Now it's more focused on the actual mouth that makes up the lips. Alright, here we go. There we go, now we're getting somewhere. Beautiful. This thing is turning out very beautiful so far. It's actually quite nice and peaceful just drawing and, just doing something like this just, I don't know, just calms you. Really calms you, doesn't it? Then you're going to add more detail on the lower lips, now that after you just did the upper lips. Just give the little wrinkly look, like those little lines to represent that fleshy look to the beautiness of the mouth. Though I don't want to get a little too mature with this one because I don't want to make it a little X-rated for kids. But anyway, let's move on to some other details with the mouth. Oh, wait, my hand must have gone on the way. Yep, I just didn't really notice that. Sorry, this was just my first time trying to teach people how to draw. But anyway, let's get back into this. Then eventually add more detail to the mouth. Sorry for my head on the way. And there, you got it. Then move on to adding the iris for the eye. First, draw a little spot right there to emphasize the light reflection of the eye. Then draw the black iris, and then eventually draw the color of the eye. Even though that's not really involved in any color, but you know what I mean. Draw the outside of the iris, and then eventually do the same thing for the other eye. Just draw a little dot to reflect the light reflection, then draw a black iris, and eventually draw the outside of the virus. No, iris, not virus. It's not like we're in a zombie apocalypse or anything. No. There, now that your face is done, let's finally focus on the actual body. Now, originally, I was thinking I had two things. Was I going to make this character look more like a croissant, or I was going to make this character look more like a worm? And in some cases, some people may say that this looks like Patrick in some way or another. And I can understand that cone-shaped head does kind of look like Patrick from SpongeBob, if you ask me, except that the face looks like something you would see off of Shrek. But nonetheless, I'm just trying to do my best to help teach you all to draw. Maybe this could be very important one day. Now with the croissant-like shape on the bottom looking quite interesting to say the least, now let's focus on getting rid of some of the extra lines, so that way you can add more details to it without trying to make the art look extremely unfinished. Because if it was unfinished, then that would be considered garbage. But still, this is still a bit of a rough sketch, or a bit of something like that. Then eventually move on to the next part. Eventually add more detail to it to actually make it feel a bit more refined and quite interesting in some way or another. Though I don't want to confuse people for the tail because I don't want people to get the wrong idea for it. It's supposed to resemble a worm or a croissant, but I couldn't even figure out what it is, what I'm trying to draw, but this is simply me just trying to describe how to draw. Man, I'm terrible at this, am I? But anyway, still, I'm just simply doing my best to give you guys a bit of a distinction of how drawing is. Now with the chest area almost finally complete, now let's finally move on to finish off the body. Then finally focus on some other parts as well. With the lines being taken away, with the detail now look a bit more refined, now let's move on to the next part after I'm done with this. Now let's move on to the left arm, adding more detail to it, making it more croissant-like or worm-like. Sorry that my head is in the way, but I didn't really notice how I wasn't looking at it. Then you go like that. Get rid of some of the extra lines they use to help to build the foundation of this look. And then eventually finish trying to refine the lines. Get rid of some of the extra lines. Make room for new lines to actually help build the foundation of this drawing. And then eventually draw another line, because why not? Right there and there. Here we go. There. I think we're getting somewhere. Now, if you'll excuse me, I might as well go ahead and finish the arm off. Like this, so. There. Now that we're getting somewhere properly, like I said. There. Now with the little lemon arm finally all completed, with the body almost completed in some way or another, let's finally move on to the next step. Just give me a second, and there. Now let's finally add the finishing touches, shall we? If I'm gonna be honest, this art doesn't seem like it's, well, to be honest, it doesn't look pleasant, but this is simply the best thing I can try to describe how to draw. Like I said prior, but anyway, now with finally finishing the other arm and eventually moving on to the back, that way I would actually help to add some of the finishing touches, particularly the textures in some way or another. First, you have to make the arm a little bit more connected to the rest of the body, because if it's not really connected, then it would feel a little disconnected from the body. Then, get rid of some of the extra lines and make that shoulder pop out as such. Then eventually focus on moving on the actual arm after I'm finished with the shoulder. Like that, and there we hold on a second. Let's see what we're gonna do. I think that's it for the shoulder, I guess. Now let's move on to the back. Now, I want to make the back similar to the body in some way or another, make it a little wrinkly and somewhat like natural to the body itself. Wait, hold on a second, that doesn't look right. We'll get back to that later for a second. Hold on, let's just finish. This doesn't make any sense. But anyway, let's see. There. I think I figured it out now. And there we go. Make it look like it's three-dimensional to actually feel a little bit more fitting. There. I finished fixing the back. Now, finally, let's move on to the right arm. I almost called it a left arm because that would sound stupid. Left is left and right is right. Now, finishing off the right arm. Let's see what we got here. There we go. Get rid of some of the extra lines and some other shapes that I've been using for the build of foundation. Then eventually focus on getting this right arm completed. Now listen, this video isn't going to be perfect, and I understand that, but I'm pretty sure that if I do another how to draw video after this, I very deeply promise you all that it will be better than the one I'm doing right now. But anyway, this is just something new that I haven't tried to tackle with since I have done stock footage fighting and how it's done in my art style series or something like that, blah, 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 and some other funny stuff or some other, interesting stuff I've been doing on the channel, particularly doing my farm life, which, to be honest, I don't really do much because I'm not really a huge fan of farming. But anyway, I have to do it because I have to respect my family. And honestly, yes, I have to. because that's a part of my bloodline. But anyway, now the actual drawing is finally finished, let's focusing on adding some finishing touches and details, particularly the more wrinkly elements. Finish making the head, making it a part of the body, looking a bit more croissant-like. There. Now, with that out of the way, let's get rid of that extra line. Hold a second. Then fix that. There we go. Alright, now let's focus on getting this guy's finishing touches proper. Now, if I add some little lines here to emphasize the hard shell or wrinkledness or something you would see on a croissant or something on a worm. There we go. Make it seem a little interesting and natural. Feel true at character. It looks more like a stitch. It looks more like a stitch scar, to be honest. Alright, now let's focus on... Hold a second. There we go. Now let's focus on finishing the arm. Add some more wrinkles. And I'm getting extremely bored at this point, but I'm actually enjoying how this art's doing so far. Yes. Yes, indeed. You see what I'm doing? To make it look like it's attached to the arm itself, while still being like true to the other details that I'm doing for this drawing. Alright, let's move on to this. There we go. Yes. Now we're getting somewhere. Excuse me for the "now we're getting somewhere" line being overused, but I'm just enjoying how this art is coming together. I love it. Now the right arm finally almost finished. Let's add some more finishing details to make it stand out a bit more. Yes, there we go. Now he looks good. Now let's focus on finishing off the body and the rest of the other parts of this character. Now, for some people would just probably wonder, now yes, some of you, like I said from earlier, are questioning what this thing could be like. Like I said, it could be like Patrick's star, like a starfish, or something in between, like a croissant or a worm. However, I had no idea while trying to come up with this character design, but it was at least the best thing I could try to come up with, in order to teach concept designers to address these type of ideas. Just add some wrinkles here and there. There we go. I'll eventually move on to the middle part of the body, particularly the pelvis, I'm pretty sure it is. And there we go. The rest of the body is almost complete, I guess. There. It's good. Now let's focus on doing the left arm and then eventually finish it off with the head. There we go. Yes. It looks almost perfect. There we go. There we go. The abdomen is all finally finished. The arm is finally finished. Now finishing up with the head. Now, for some of you all, these might look like eyelashes, but actually they're not. You see, they are in fact part of the wrinkles on the eyebrows, essentially. Something you would see on old creatures such as like elephants or reptiles or something like that. But that's mainly because this particular character that I'm drawing is particularly meant to be a old-aged man in some way or another. Or just a nice Giga Chad who has returned from retirement in some way or another. Just ready to eventually do some whatever weird shenanigans he loves to do. Yes, he looks even more fabulous. Yes, the details look beautiful. There we go. There we go. Ah, yes, yes. We're almost there, boys. We're almost finishing this picture. Sorry, my head was in the way. Okay. There we go. And yeah, I'm guessing he's done. Well, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time in the next video. As always, hit that like button in the comment section, subscribe to my channel, and welcome to the society. In the 25th of this month, particularly the actual 25th, I'll be turning 20 because it's my birthday on that day. And since my subscribers is hitting off the charts, up around 979, I'm hoping that I'll get to that point on where I hit 1K during my birthday, if not. But still, that's just a possibility I've been wanting to do. But anyway, I am Jackson Bates, and I'm signing out, and welcome to the society, everyone. I'm signing out because, well, I'm done making this video, and I'll see you in the next time. Goodbye.